Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This video is part of the Christmas Craft Off 24, hosted by Rachel from Rach and Bella Crafts. And it is a collaboration that will take place the entire month of November with 2 crafters each day and prompts on each day. Today is day 3, and my prompt is fabric pockets and hidden gifts. Now, there are so many different styles and approaches that you can find in this, so there is truly something for everyone. We are using the, what is it called? Shoot, I just drew a blank. Nostalgic Noel kit created by Rachel, and it's a phenomenal kit because there is something for everyone. There's Nordic feel, there's Victorian feel, there's nature and more whimsical feel, there's a countryish feel. There's so many different pieces that there is truly something for every crafter. Each day we have a partner, and today my partner is the amazing Jez from Nigeza Creates. And please go check out her channel on Rachel's website, where you can purchase the kit for 40% off this entire month. There is a list of contributors and what their prompts are and who will be doing it each day. And it's at Rach and Bella Crafts / Christmas Craft Off 24. And I'll put the link down below, but if you need to go check it out a different way, that's what it is. It's her website, Rachel and Bella Crafts, and then Christmas Craft Off 24. All right, this is my third attempt. My camera keeps stopping, or my video screen keeps stopping. So I'm going to try to move forward a little bit faster than I have in the past. My prompt is fabric pockets and hidden gifts. So I decided to go with lace pockets as opposed to fabric, simply because as I'm putting back together my craft room after our new flooring, I am noticing that I have an extreme abundance of lace. Plus, I love using it. All right. I also have a bin of projects that I'd like to share at some point, and this was in it. And because this is fabric gifts, fabric pockets and gifts, hidden gifts, I thought this would be a really fun one. I've double checked my videos. I do not believe I've made a video on this, and it's not going to be identical anyway. This is based on. When I created this one, I used a piece of Tim Holtz 12 by 12 paper. However, it works really well with just slight alterations. And this one I think has 14 pockets. My thought was that you can use lace or fabric if you choose, and all kinds of pockets to tuck little gifts in. And because this is fairly flat and it meets the U.S. Postal Service requirement, pardon me, of less than 3/4 inches, you could put this in an envelope and gift it to someone. Or you could put it in your own journal, just sewing in at the seam here, and have just kind of a fun little pull-out folio-ish. So upon opening this, there are 3 pockets on the first flap. There's a back tuck pocket, pocket in the back of that, and then a lift up. There's journaling space below with a pocket for little tabs and such underneath. I'm going to show you the pieces I'm using in just a minute, but I wanted to cover this. Then the next page is just a side tuck. I thought maybe if you were going to put like a Christmas card or a Christmas photo in here, that might be a good spot because it's kind of a shallow pocket that allows most of the photo to show. And then there's a flip out, which is a double-sided, in this case, vellum pocket. The sample I made used tracing paper, coffee-dyed tracing paper, and we're going to be using printed vellum today. But my point being that you can use any kind of thinner, transparent paper you want. And in fact, you could use regular copy paper if that's what you've got available. And then that flips over. And then there is a small pocket on the front. There's a center pocket with a larger pocket in the back. And then this is a double spot place for labels, and then postage stamps right in here. And then there is a tag that's a fold out. Now the kit comes with everything you could possibly want or need, including postage stamps and labels and tags and all the things. Here it is used, this small tag is on a large tag, and it's used as a belly band to hold a journaling spot or a journaling notepad. And then that flips over. And then this is one of the circle pockets with a little notebook inside. And a lot of what I'm not going to make today are the pieces that I would use lace or scrap paper on. I'm going to show the construction of this so that anybody who chooses to make it can. and then you can decorate it in any manner you choose. I'm just showing you this one so you can see how I've chosen to decorate it. And then the next flip out section has a side tuck and then a pocket for more. And I believe like there are 14 pockets total in this piece. So certainly something to large enough. Many gift cards would fit in here, or notes or messages or whatever you wanted to gift. So the inspiration for the project came from this. And here's the prototype I used with an 8.5 by 11-ish paper. Now it doesn't have to be exactly 8.5 by 11 inches. You can use pretty much any size paper. So if you're in the UK or a country that doesn't use the standard US paper, you can still use it because this is not based specifically on measurements. It's, you know, whatever size your paper normally is can be utilized. And again, we're going to do the same thing with 3 pockets on this side, and then a flip out that's a double pocket, a corner tuck pocket, a standard pocket, a back pocket that's much larger with space for labels and postage stamps on the side. This is a belly band, so for a notepad, and this is a pocket for another notepad or what have you. And this one has a bit of lace on the front because I'm going to try to incorporate a bit more lace for another bit of a tuck. Here you have a side tuck and then another side pocket tuck. And there are the pieces that we're going to be making. So I'm going to put this out in front of me. And the kit. Okay. When I printed the kit, I originally, because I'm putting my craft room back together after the floors, I originally couldn't find my copy paper, the copy paper I normally use. I just had regular prints or regular cardstock. And you can see the difference. Well, hopefully you can see the difference. The vibrancy that using quality copy paper allows. I use an Epson premium presentation paper. This is a cardstock. They have a standard weight as well. I just feel like it gives you a more vibrant print. Of course, use what you like, what you have, but I'm using this one because of the color value it gives you. So I chose to go with a more country-ish, I guess, whimsical kind of Christmas prints. And I didn't print everything. There's over 50 background pages and pages of fussy cuts and pages of tags and labels and all the things. So you can see I'm going to be utilizing some of these when I do decorate this bit. Oh, and that was another thing. Many people are having giveaways, and in order to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is watch all the videos, like, and comment on each video. I did not see anything that said you had to subscribe, so I don't believe that's a requirement. So, but please do, of course, check out people and subscribe to the channels that inspire you. I get a little too sidetracked if I subscribe to too many channels, so I personally recognize that in myself, that I have to be a little more cognizant of keeping my subscriptions to a minimum. But here is a page that shows the postage stamps that we can tuck into that. So you can see there's, for whatever decorations you choose, there's more than enough. Like this was just gift tags, you know, the to from. So you could print these up and cut them out and gift them to somebody so that they can use them on their own Christmas decorating. And then they have smaller sizes of the same thing. So if you're working something smaller, and fussy cuts and all the pieces. And so we'll be using some of these. Also, Rachel on her website has some freebies, and those, I believe there's 4 pages right now of freebies, and they are advent labels. So if you were using making an advent calendar or wanting to do a gift a day, I printed 3 of them. I believe there's another one. There's just a lot of options. So if you were wanting to do that as well. All right. I printed mine double-sided because of the way we're going to create it. And I've already started to cut it because this is, like I said, the 3rd video. My camera keeps cutting out, or my video screen keeps cutting out. So I'm going to try to move forward a little faster. I printed double-sided cardstock on that presentation paper, and I printed on vellum. I printed one of the background pieces on vellum simply because of the thickness, and I like the way it looks. You can print it on anything you like. I wanted to use transparency in here with some of these leaves, but it was getting a little thick to mail. So if I were going to use it in my own journal, I would probably do that, put a poinsettia leaf or something in there. But, you know, personal preference. Okay, so I've already started cutting it. What I did is I trimmed down the edges and I inked them lightly. And then my next step for the background piece, this base piece, is I folded it in half horizontally. or hot dog, whichever way you prefer it. Now I chose paper that wasn't super directional. Yes, these are candy canes and I suppose they have to be a certain way, but the berries and all the things, it didn't really matter. And the same thing with this beautiful plaid. Pattern size, style, size, orientation didn't matter so much. And I was intentional about that because our first piece is going to be folded up. So you'll see both sides. And if you don't care for upside down images, you want to be more aware of the direction of the paper that you choose. All right, so first step was to get your paper, ink the edges if you're an inker or not, and then fold it in half horizontally and score. Again, if it's an 8-inch wide piece, you're going to fold it at about 4 inches. If it's a little bit wider, if it's 8.5 or 9 inches, it'll just be a little bit, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is it doesn't matter, just fold it in half. The second step is to open it back up, and you are only going to score or fold the top right corner. So when I was scoring this, I got my scoreboard out and I scored only to my fold line. So I measured here, I wanted a 1.5 inch piece about. It can be 1 3/4, it can be 1 1/4. It's not crucial, but this is the Velcro closure. So you don't want it too big or too small. And I'll use these double-sided Velcro pieces, but I want it to close over the top enough so that it grabs and that it looks like an envelope closure, but it doesn't need to be huge. So that's why I chose 1.5. Again, a little bigger, a little smaller is totally fine. So that was my first score. And I scored only to the center line. So from 1.5 inches from the right edge to the center line. And then I moved it over and I scored, let's see, what did I score? 4 1/4 from the center line. And I did that intentionally. Once you're all said and done, you're going to cut. And I didn't want this edge to touch where, so you can see that gap there. I wanted that because I'm going to put pieces in here and cards and tags and lace and bits, and it'll get bulky. And if it was cut to the same length, sometimes they impede each other. So I cut it a little bit smaller intentionally. So 1.5 inches on the right, 4 1/4 inches on the left, and that was one solid piece. I hadn't done any cutting yet. At that point, I cut horizontally just to the 1.5 inch line on the right. See in the center on my horizontal line, I cut to the 1.5 inch line on the right and to the 4 1/4 on the left, leaving me flaps that open and close. Okay, so that's where we were, I think, when the video stopped. Last video stopped. So I've got those two pieces. And then eventually this will fold up. This will be the back. We'll make some scores. We'll do some things. And that will be the flip outs. But this is the section we're working on right now. We've 1.5 inches, folded it in, cut 4 1/4 inches or so. It doesn't have to be 4 1/4. It can be 4, 4.5, whatever. Folded it in and cut. All right, that's where we are. Now my next piece is going to go right here on the inside. We're going to use this bottom section later, but right now we're going to make this piece. And I did that here out of coffee dyed tracing paper. And I did a long strip, an 8.5 by 11 strip, and I cut it about 2 3/4. You can cut it 2 1/2, you can cut it 3, but I just did it at about 2 3/4. All right, and that's what I've got here. That's where I left off. And I'm really hoping this video works because I still haven't learned to stitch videos together. Okay, so my dimension on this book turns out to be, with mine folded in half and after I've trimmed it, it's just about 4 inches. Maybe not exactly 4, maybe 4 1/8 is what this is. So what I did was, and this is going to be that back piece right here, I trimmed my vellum and I scored it at 4 inches because this piece is going to go down right here on this back section. It's going to go down right here. That's going to be this piece right here. And I folded it down, right? I sewed it in this one simply because I like the way sewing looks, but for the sake of speed, I'm just going to use glue on this one. So I sewed it down. Then I folded it up, or scored it at the length of the page, right? and folded it up. And now I want to fold it down again. You don't have to score it if you don't want to. I want about an inch, inch and a half or so to show at the top. You see there? About. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And I'm going to do it like this. So I'll just score that down. So I've got it kind of making a Z, basically. And even vellum will accept ink, so I'm going to ink it so that it stands out. It's easier when I do these with solid paper because the patterns don't distract the eye. But this is the beautiful paper on the kit, and I really wanted to use it. So I'm going to ink around the edges, and I'm going to glue this down for the sake of speed. Now, vellum can be really tricky to work with, and it's one of the reasons I sew vellum. There are glues that don't show, but I have never seen a glue that doesn't show at all. Personal preference is I sew it. It doesn't have to be sewn, and because I printed on this vellum, it's not going to show too much in the least. I have folded it to a Z. Now I'm going to take this bottom piece and fold it up. So here, let me move that out of the way, so maybe this will make it a little, you can score it if you want to, but I'm just going to fold it up so that it touches the bottom. Okay, just like this. So now when I open it up, this is what it looks like. Looks like a mountain, I guess, and it's going to be on its side. I'm going to ink this piece, and I'm going to put a little bit of lace right here just to finish this edge. Now this is the back side of the pattern. Here you have the front side of the pattern, here you have the front side of the pattern. This is the back side. That's another beauty of working with vellum. The front and back will both show out, but because it's a little bit more faded, I don't know how well that shows on screen, but because it's a little bit more faded, I'm going to grab, I have a bin of lace here, I've got some scrap lace. I'm just going to grab, and I haven't planned out which lace I'm going to use. I'm just going to grab my bin and pull something that looks nice. Yep, that's pretty. I will use that. Cut off a bit. Now, I'm going to sew this. You don't have to by any means. You can use Fabri-Tac. I'm not a fan of Fabri-Tac, so I generally sew mine. What I do a lot of times is I will use a tiny bit of wet glue to hold it in place until I sew it, but it's just personal preference. See, I want that to show. Oh, and another tip for those of you who may be new, I bought this flat iron at a yard sale a long time ago, and I use it for lace. So when I've got lace that's a little bit bent, I just straighten it. I have a metal garbage can on purpose so that I can keep the hot iron on and I don't have to worry about burning anything. So I would just lay it down like that, and I'm going to, I like that. So I'm going to sew that in place, and give me 1 second, and then I'll be right back. Again, you are absolutely welcome to use Fabri-Tac, but I just like to sew it. I'm looking, I haven't watched anybody else's videos yet, just because I have been at school and also trying to get my house put back together. I had things everywhere. This craft room is really packed, so I've had things everywhere. And it's not quite done, but it's getting there. And I just got it done in time, in fact, to do this video. Well, not done. Done is the wrong word. I got it in a place where I could actually create the video. And I'm hoping I can finish it up today. And then for those of you who asked, I will share a video showing my new changes to my craft room. It's essentially the same as it was in the past. I made a few changes. I purchased a larger paper holder that I found on Facebook Marketplace that I really love. And because my needs changed, I moved the base of the desk back a little bit, which necessitated some other changes. But largely it's similar. I just had to take away a couple things, and so I'm having to refigure a couple things. Also, in front of me is butcher paper. And the reason the butcher paper is there is because my new lights, which I really like for the light, leave a horrible glare on the screen, on the glass mat that I use. So this is still my glass mat. It's still magnetic with my magnets, but hopefully it'll eliminate some of the glare for you. Okay, see? So yeah, I like that. And then I'll trim off the excess, making sure I don't cut the bottom that I had folded over. And that will be the piece that I glue in to, that'll be the piece that I glue into our booklet, wherever our booklet is. Oh, here it is. Okay, now I'm creating a mess. Let's put some things away. Okay, so this is going to go right here. And again, if I were doing this myself, I mean, I would sew it in, but I'm going to glue it, and I'll show you what I mean. Because it's a pattern, the glue isn't going to show too much. Now my first glue is going to be on my bottom section. I don't want to glue the top piece because I want to be able to use that as a tuck. So I'm just going to glue the right and the left side. And I do this, I do it when I'm sewing too, to make sure that I don't glue the wrong thing or sew the wrong thing. Because Lord knows I've done that too. All right, and then I clamp it just for a minute because vellum is a very hard compressed paper and it takes a little tiny bit longer to dry. All right, that is drying. I only want to glue down 3 sides on the back because I want it to be a side tuck. So I'm going to glue the top, the right, and the bottom. And I'll do that. I'm just using art glitter glue. You can use Barely There or reptile glue. I really like reptile glue as well. Whatever you have, whatever you like to use. Oh gosh, what's the other? Aleene's. Many people like Aleene's. Okay, that's going to be dry now. I'll take those out. Now I'm going to put this down. See where you can see where that crease is. I want to match it up just to the right of that crease. I don't want it in the crease, but I also don't want it too terribly far over. Okay, because I've got a pattern, you're not going to see that glue behind. Once it dries, it's going to dry clear. If I were using solid paper, it would show. You would see some of it. That's just, there's just no way around it if you're using regular glue. If you use glue stick, I don't believe it's strong enough. Personal opinion is it's not strong enough to hold it if you're putting something in there. If you're not putting anything in the pockets, you're fine. And again, it's one of the reasons I like to sew them on. Now, this section, I'm going to fold this up. I don't want to glue this piece down because that's where I'm going to put my little notepad. But I do want to glue, oh, see, you can see that came up. That's why I sew it. It will hold, it will work, but stitches work really well too. All right, I want to fold this down to make this pocket. So again, I'm going to glue just the right and just the left. Kind of like a stacked pocket, I guess is a good way to put it, with a flip. Stacked pocket with a flip. And this is not a new piece. Has somebody else made this particular folio? It's entirely possible. I've had this in my book to make for a while. I don't remember it being originated by somebody else, and Lord knows there's plenty of people who do these and have probably done something similar. But for all intents and purposes, this is just was in my make this box, and I thought it would be good for this project. So there you go. All right, now I want to let that dry before I tuck anything in there, but there's my pocket. 1, 2, 3 pockets and a lift for a notepad. I'm not going to make the notepad right now because we're only doing the construction, and it doesn't have to be a notepad. You can just put a writing space. You can put a whole writing space on the whole thing, or a quote, or whatever you want. All right, so that is the first section. Now we are doing what we're doing next. This folds up, and this is, maybe I should read my directions, huh? Okay, so we did this piece, right? And this section, we haven't done that. I don't even remember what I did. I guess I better really read it. So fold down, score from bottom notepad, use remaining vellum to make fold over flat pocket. That's this. Okay, so I am using, that's just one piece. This is this section. I don't know why I scored that. Why did I score this? This is supposed to be a full sheet. Don't know why I did that. Well, that's okay. That's fixable. I am going to fold this down right here. Make sure this doesn't go, because this looks like it's a mostly full sheet. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to fold. This was the bottom left. I have no idea why I scored that, but bottom left. I've used this so many times, I'm not quite sure. So I'm folding it up and just folding it and folding it over. It's not going to go to any score line. I've just folded it over where the cut. So I folded it over at 4 1/4. And that is this piece right here. So I'm going to grab, well, I've got this line here, but you can see it's this section, right? This section right here. And for some reason, I folded this, and here I have a corner round pocket. So you know what I can do is I'll just switch it. Instead of putting my corner pocket on this side where it'll the score line will show, I'll put my quarter pocket on this side, and I'll put my regular pocket on that side. You can see there's a pocket on the back, there's a pocket on the inside, and I'll put those on. But before I do that, I need to make this little fold out piece, and I'm going to use my remaining vellum to create that fold out piece, or tracing paper or copy paper, whatever you're using. So you can see here, this is, I sewed it again, and I will sew this one because I want to put a piece of, actually, do I want to put a piece of lace on it? No, maybe I don't. All right. This is going to go here on this edge, on this right edge for my centerpiece. When I'm folding it up, my horizontal, the bottom section of my horizontal, the left flap will just be folded over where I have my crease. And this will be my inside section. And before I put either of the pockets down, I want to put my fold out pocket, which is the vellum. All right, I am going to fold this remaining section in half. Oh, that's too big. No, I'm not. All right, I've got, this is about a 4 1/4. Yours might be a little longer, a little shorter. So I want this only to be 8 inches because I do not want them to touch right here. I am going to overlap it just a tiny bit so that it hangs on basically. You can see here, it's kind of, I sewed it in place because I wanted it firm. But I'm going to overlap it just a little bit, but not a ton. So I need to cut down the length and I need to cut down the width just a little bit. My total pocket size here is just over 4. I think we decided it was 4 1/8. So I'm going to cut vertically down to the same thing. Horizontally, excuse me. Vertically, that's right, the long way, down to that 4 inches. I want that piece to fit. So I'll cut this to 4 inches. And I'll save that because I imagine I'll use it for something else. And then I am going to trim, I don't even know how much. I'm going to trim a little bit off. About an inch, inch and a half, something like that. Not too much, but some, because I want it to fit in here. And then I will fold this piece in half, and you can see it's a little big. It's a little bit larger, so I could have trimmed off a little bit more. But honestly, it doesn't really matter much because I'm going to fold this in half. Now I could have folded it the other way so all the patterns lined up, but I honestly don't care on that one. And I am going to put this right here on the edge. I want it to overlap at least 1/4 inch, right? Because it's going to fold. I want it to overlap at least 1/4 inch, and I am going to sew it simply because I feel like it holds it a lot better. You do not have to. You can glue it down and it will hold just fine, but I really, yeah, this is the inside piece, this is the outside piece. I really prefer the hold, especially since I'm going to put a gift in this. I want this to go to some recipient. I'm going to just push it down there, and then I'm going to sew both pieces. You can see how it opens. I'm going to sew both sections right along this edge, and I'll sew right to the bottom. Now on this one I sewed up the side because I used scrap and put it together, but you don't have to sew that edge if you choose not to. And then we'll fold it like that. Okay, so I'm going to sew that, and it will take a really quick time. I kept my arm on my sewing machine in the same space, but just because it worked really well for me. I use my sewing machine quite frequently, so I don't put it away when I create. I leave it out most of the time. But if you're a person who doesn't sew all the time on your projects, well, then it makes sense to, you know, just pull it out when you need it. But I use it enough, I find it handy enough that it makes sense for me to leave it out. Personal preference and space. My craft room is a standard sized guest bedroom. It's what, maybe 11 feet-ish by 9 feet-ish. It's not exactly that, but close. So it's not a huge room. Or no, it's maybe 10 by 9. It's not a huge room by any means, but it works for me. So there you go. Okay, so I sewed that in place. And again, I could have glued it, but gosh, it's just so much easier. And I want to make sure when I fold this down, okay, so let's orient this correctly. This is my back, right, where we put the first flip up. And I can still sew this down if I want to match, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to fold this bottom section up, and then this piece folds over. This is my pocket, and I'm going to fold this down. Now, I want to make sure that where I'm folding it, because I didn't cut it exactly, I want to make sure where I'm folding it doesn't overlap the edge. I don't want it to go past here because then it'll fold up when I fold up my booklet. And I want a little bit of a lip or a little bit of a gap there so that it doesn't catch when I fold. Okay, so I'm going to fold that down, and now this is my hinged pocket. And I generally, because it gets, I don't want to say abuse, that's the wrong word, but because it gets wear and tear, I just feel like it needs sewing. It makes it more sturdy. All right, so there we go, fold it back and forth, and it'll flip either way. And just fold it a couple times, and it'll be fine. Now, with the remainder of that, from crease to edge, I don't eyeball well. If you're a good eyeballer, that's perfect, but I am not. Mine's 4.5 inches, or excuse me, 4.25 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at 2 1/8 and use a circle punch or whatever circle device you've got to punch that. I want to be able to have both the front and the back show. So you can see there's a big pocket in the middle on my flip out. All right. Oh, I wasn't supposed to crease that. So it basically folds like this, and I'm going to fold this down because this is a really heavier weight vellum. That was what I've found and unpacked so far, so it's a little bit thicker. So that's this pocket right here. Now again, I've got this line right here that I'm not in love with because I'm not sure how I did that, but we can fix it. I can use another section of pattern paper. I can put another tuck there. I can do anything I want. Here, I did a half circle so that I could put a photo in. Maybe I will leave this blank. Yeah, maybe I will. I'll leave it blank so that, oh good, it still fits just fine. I'll leave it blank so that I could mount a photo with photo corners there, and it has a really cool edge. This is also a great place to put a little bit of lace if you were wanting some more decoration. Oh, look how pretty that is. You know what? Maybe I will, because I really like that together. So, though, you know what? The decoration isn't the purpose of this. I want to show you the construction. Okay, just know that before whoever wins this, I am going to come back in and put that lace there. I've got to do it now, though, because of sewing. Oh, all these rules, all these things. Okay, well, this is old lace that came off of something else, maybe something on a dress or something. So that's why it tears apart so easily. And there's a scrap. And yeah, because I'm going to sew this, or because I have to glue this, if I don't sew it on now, I won't be able to do it later. And I really like it, so I apologize for the additional time. Maybe a great place to go get a cup of coffee or something if you're following along. Okay, so that, yeah, I like that, especially because, and maybe I'll even do it this way, because of the little bit of vellum that shows over there. Yeah, that's really pretty, and it matches this. All right, so that's what I'm going to do, or maybe I'll even put it this way. Yeah, I will. Okay, because I haven't glued the bottom to the top yet and haven't sewn anything or haven't put everything in permanent place, I can easily do this. Just a line of glue to hold it in place. I'll put it right here. And now I'm going to go sew it on my machine. I'm only going to sew along this edge and this edge so that it shows, but it doesn't overlap. And then I'll trim off the bits, and I save those scraps. Let's see. I haven't watched Gail was yesterday. I haven't watched a Gail video in so long because of school and my house and getting sidetracked. I'm not wanting to get sidetracked and not having time to get sidetracked. I haven't watched videos in months, and I miss it like crazy. So when all the baseboards are in and all the trim is been filled and sanded and cleaned, and gosh, what do you have to do to baseboards? You have to do everything to baseboards. You have to reattach them, which takes nothing time-wise, but then you've got to fill the nail holes and caulk the edge. And then when that's dry, you sand the area you filled in down and then prime it. We used primed wood, but I still feel like it needs a coat of Kills, and then sand that lightly and then paint. So it's just a time-consuming process, and it's for the whole house. And not that our house is large, it's what, only maybe 1,600 square feet, but it just takes forever, especially when everything has been cattywampus while the floors were being put in. And this is all back to the water leak we had in June, end of June, I think is when it was, end of June. So it's just taken a long time. Okay, so I sewed that in place, and I like that. And I'm going to put something down here. So I like this bit. All right, let's fold it up the way it's supposed to go. Here, here, it's going to go like this. You open this, and then I think maybe what I'll do is put one of my pieces of pattern paper down there to make a side tuck. Because see, remember I don't know why I scored this, but I did. I scored it, and oh, that's pretty together. See, you can see the difference in the vibrancy. It just looks very different together, but I do like that. So maybe I'll make a little side tuck with this guy. And that is, instead of doing this pocket, I'll do a side pocket. And I want it to be just about 2 inches. So I'm just going to trim down another piece of the paper that I had, and I'll use this one for something else too. Trim down that paper. And I'll put that on as a side pocket instead of that rounded pocket. That's what I'll do. Oh, and I do like that, so that's pretty. All right, I'm going to ink the edge because that's what I do. And I'll glue this in place. Make sure the birdies are going in the right direction, or are those partridges? Those might be partridges. And I don't mind the muted color on this because it just kind of matches and goes well with the muted color of the vellum. And that'll hide my air, or line up with my air anyway, and it'll still look good. Okay, I do need to ink this. And I'm going to glue this down on 3 sides, the back edge, the top, and the bottom. And that was about 4 inches, so I'll just do it like this. Glue this down. And this way I can make it exact, the exact height, because it was 4 1/8. But I'll glue that down, and then I'll trim this off, and then I'll clamp it in place just for a moment to make sure that it's truly dry. It dries quick. This glue is a quick drying glue. All right. Again, let's orchestrate this the way it's supposed to be. Back page flipped up. Here, this flip goes like so. Oh no, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this. So I need something to stabilize that. And you know what? Maybe what we'll do here is we will use another section of this for a pocket. That's what we'll do. And this one is, what did I say? It's just over 4 1/4 inches wide. So I'll cut it at 4 inches. So I'm going to make, I'm making sure again my partridges go the right way. I'm going to cut a 4-inch piece off this. Sorry, that cord that you keep seeing is my microphone cord. And I haven't figured out a way to make it not go in the screen yet. Okay, so 4 inches, and the page width is 4 inches, so maybe I'll go half of it, 1 3/4. You know what? Let's go more. Let's go 2 1/2. That way I can put some decoration on the top of the pocket if I want to. Yeah, that's what we'll do. You can make this as big or as small as you want. Doesn't matter. And again, I want to put a divot in the top of this pocket because I like divots. This is 4 inches, so at 2 inches, I'm going to make my divot. And I don't make it super deep. Okay, and now I will ink that and glue it down. I'll glue this on 3 sides. Now the kit does have some pockets if you are wanting a bulkier pocket. It's got the hinges on it so you can wrap it around, or you can just cut those off. But they're already pre-done for you. So if you don't have a circle punch, you can certainly use that option, but I would highly, highly encourage you to get a couple different size circle punches as your budget allows, because those are something I use. I think most people, I feel comfortable saying most people use them quite frequently. A lot of us like to make these little notches. Makes it easier to show what goes where. Okay, so now I'm going to put this pocket right here. Yeah, I like that. See, it still fits. You can still see that lace edge, and it matches what was on the other side. So I'm going to glue this down 3 sides, right, left, and bottom. It seems like when it's been a long time since I've made a video, but you know, historically looking at comments, some people say I do this too quickly. I need to slow down. Other people say I go too slow, then I need to speed up. And you know, that's just, you know, there's no pleasing everybody, which is, of course, just human nature, but try to balance the speeds so that I can hit most people. You're always welcome to speed it up if that works better for you, or to just slow it down or go back and watch it again if that's what you need to in order to create the project. All right, so there's my pocket there. Okay, I have, yeah, this is where we are. So flip, pocket here, we changed it from the quarter pocket to this because of my boo-boo, and then this flip out vellum piece. Now I haven't inked this. I like the way vellum looks inked. I like the way most everything looks inked. I don't care for raw edges, but if you're a raw edge person, that's good too. I could, of course, because of this vellum, I will definitely add some decoration based on the ephemera offered in the kit. Maybe I'll put another pocket on it. Maybe I'll put just a simple decoration. It'll depend on how bulky it gets, honestly. And again, this completed project is what I will be mailing to whoever wins. And I think Rachel is doing the drawing, and will about a week after the last day, so the first week of December, maybe by December 6th or 7th or something. And whoever gets this, I will mail, because my craft room will be done by then and I'll be able to mail things. Okay, so we've got that piece done. Moved over here, flip this. We've got a pocket back here, got a pocket here, so we're good to go. Now we are ready for this section. This is the center section here. So I need to cut the bottom of this. Now it's already cut. That's why it was cut at 2 inches. It was supposed to be the other way. Okay, now I recognize why this crease was here. Here, this one was scored at 1 1/2. I want this one scored at 2 inches. So I'm going to cut in a little bit more because I want it to fold back a little bit more because it fits better. The way it rolls, it fits better. So that's why it was done previously. Okay, so now I'm going to score this section, this bottom section. Well, maybe I will if I can find my scoreboard. I'm going to score this bottom section at 2 inches from the edge. So let's see, I've got it lined up on the 5. Let's just flip it like this. I've got it lined up on the 5. I'll go to the 3, and I'll go again only to my center line where I've got all my folds. Okay. It's a little cattywampus, but it'll work. All right, now I'm going to cut a little bit more. Remember I cut this in to 1.5. Now I'm going to cut it all the way to that 2-inch mark. And I'm going to trim it down. Sorry about that. I hit my light with the scissors, or my phone with the scissors. Darn it. Sorry. Okay, cut that in. Take that little scrappy bit out. I usually cut that off, but it's not playing nicely today. Okay. I might need to even that up later. All right, here's my construction. This is the center section right here. Okay, now I cut this to 2 inches and I'm folding it back. So you can see here, I've got a double crease. I've got a double line so that when I put this flip and this flip, I've still got room to work. Okay, and I'm going to fold that down. And that is the piece that makes this section right here. Place right here for labels and a place right here for the postage stamps. Okay, and that fits pretty well. Let me ink this up a bit because it's easier to ink before it's glued. Ink that edge. Okay, the one difference is, or the one exception is, I put this strip on right here so that I have a tuck spot for the postage stamps. And then when I glue this down, I have the tuck spot for the labels. So I'm just going to use a scrap of something. Sure, why not? Okay, I'm going to use this scrap, and this is about 3/4 of an inch, I believe, so I'll make it about 3/4 of an inch. And in fact, I'll do it on this side because I've already started to ink that, and then I'll have to ink everything. 3/4 of an inch, Corey, not 1 1/4 inches. Okay, 3/4 of an inch, because that gives me enough tuck space to tuck the postage stamps in. All right, so yeah, that's 3/4 of an inch. You can go a little bit more, a little bit less if you want. It really doesn't matter. Okay, I'd already started to ink this edge that I trimmed, so I might as well utilize that. And then I'll ink here. Now I have to be careful again. I'm not cutting, or I'm not gluing everything. I'm gluing the top, the left, and the bottom, because I want to be able to tuck my postage stamps in here. So on this little flap that I've just created, I'm going to glue the top, the left edge, and the bottom. Now I could have put it on the other end, but if there's too much glue, if I went too far, I'll just wipe it off. And I did go too far. Well, see, there you go. Just wipe it off, and I'll hold that in place, and now I can trim the top. I don't usually use those scissors. I have scissors that I use when I'm gluing simply because I want to keep the blade sharp for the others. And not that this isn't sharp, but it's just a little sharper without any glue on it. All right, now ink that top edge. And here is this piece right here. Now, before I do anything else, I've got a section right here that I can take a little divot out of, right? I can take this little itty bitty divot. And again, I like to go in about the center. So let's see, I've got just about 2 inches there. So I'll go at just about 1 inch. And I'll take a little divot out of the top, and that'll show that it's a pocket. Now, I've got this really big circle punch. I could have used a smaller one. I don't even see my line. Okay, Corey. Oh, there it is. Okay. But I just can go down not so very far, right? I can just go down a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to see that it's indeed a pocket. And that's another, okay, I want a little more than that. And that's another reason that I like ink, because it defines pockets and such. Okay, that's a little better. You can see a little bit more. And I'll ink that edge. Okay. And here we go, page 1. Flip open, works, over, and here is my centerpiece. All right, now I'm going to glue the top and the bottom only on these. Okay, top and bottom only, because I want to use it as a side tuck. And there we go. And now I will clamp that for just a minute, because it's a little bit thicker. I want to make sure it dries. Okay, while that's drying, now I'm making this flap hinge. Now, if you want to use one of the tags from the kit, this is a great place to use a tag from a kit. I am going to use a piece of cardstock simply because I have it. So we've got 1, 2, 3 patterns so far, 4 actually if you count the vellum. And I could do this in vellum or I can do it in cardstock. Because it's a tag and I want it to be a little thicker and I want something on the front and on the back, ooh, I need my double-sided piece. Because this is one tag. Otherwise I would have to do 2 tags and glue them together because I want pattern on the front and pattern on the back. So I've got that one section left of this double-sided piece. So I am going to use that. And this space, I think it was about 4 1/4. It is. I want my tag to be a little bit shorter. You can see here. So if I do 4 1/4, right? If I make this 4 1/4 inches, then I have room to score the end, to tuck the end under. So I'm going to make my width 4 1/4, and I think the depth on this, or the width, I'm going to make my length 4 1/4, but we're turning it on its side, and then the width about 3. So I'll do 4 1/4 by about 3. Okay, 4 1/4. And 3. Now I've got trimming to do, which is why I'm making it a little bit wide. So there's 3. And you know what? This section is going to go underneath, so I don't even have to trim it down. I'll just leave it just like it is. It's going to be glued underneath. Okay, so here's my tag. And because of the way it's oriented, I want it to go like this. So this will be this side. You can see there's a little bit of white on there. Doesn't matter at all because it's not going to show. And I've got this at 4 1/4. So I'm going to use about 1/4 of an inch, score at about 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, something like that. It doesn't really matter, to make my hinge. Okay. Okay, I didn't even do that straight. Nice job, Cor. Well, fortunately, it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. I can rearrange it. So I've scored that, and now I'm going to put the corners on my tag. And I have one of these tag corner punches I got on Amazon just because it's easy. There you go. And you can see here, I made some, hole reinforcers. That's what those things are called. So I will do that here. Oh, actually, I had a couple extra. And the way I do that is I just punch the center hole with a smaller hole punch, and then I punch the larger hole with a little bit larger hole punch. Again, I use circle punches quite often. So, okay, I am going to lightly ink this and glue it down, and I'll just put it in roughly the center. And then I'll 3 inches, so at about 1.5 inches is where I want this. Some people are fabulous at eyeballing. I am horrible at eyeballing, so I almost never do. And I will glue this hole reinforcer. My personal preference is I glue one down, and then I punch the hole, and then I glue the other side down to make sure they're lined up. All right, so I've got that glued down. I'm going to use the punch on the center where I've already got the hole punched. Punch that out, and now I have my template for the other side of where the hole reinforcer goes. And again, I'll just lightly ink the edge and glue that in place. That's, if you have hole reinforcers that are already done, that's a little faster, but this works well as too. Okay, now before I'm going to glue it in, ink, ink, ink. You can decorate this later. Let's see. I'm going to show you how I did that. I put a tag here for a belly band and a circle piece there, and we'll make those real quick as well, because that's part of the base construction. But again, the decorating bit, you can do that at your leisure with whatever you like. And of course, you know, these are just guideline suggestions. If you want to use a different kind of a pocket or a different kind of a tuck, absolutely go for it. You know what we haven't done much is we haven't put much lace on. Well, dang now, but we did a little bit over here, and I could have put a little bit of lace there. So maybe this piece needs a little bit of lace. No, I'm not going to do a little bit of lace on this one. I think I'll put a little bit of lace here. Okay. Oh, I only inked one side. Let's ink both sides. And again, I like grungy too, and so sometimes I'll go really heavy with the ink. But for this, the paper's so pretty, I just want to take the white edges off. Okay, yep, it's still videoing, that's good. And now I'm going to glue this in place. Now I can use a piece of lace here, I can use anything I want, but I'm just going to glue that in place. So all I'm going to do is add glue to the inside edge of my hinge that I just created, my flap or hinge, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to glue that and tuck it roughly in the center. Now this, I truly don't care if it's perfectly centered because it doesn't need to be. And then I'll glue that down and I'll clamp that. Okay, so that is this piece right here. All right, while that's drying, on one side I have this half circle pocket and on the other side I have a tag. So let's use this double-sided paper again. Unless we want to use this. All right, you know what? Let's look and see what we want to use. It doesn't matter which one I use where, but this side is here, so I could use, you know what? I think I want to use this simply for the color because I've got a piece of that pattern here, a piece of that pattern here, and so I'll put a piece of that pattern here in a tag. Now this tag, I don't even know how big that is. That's a 2-inch tag by about 3 inches, so a 2 by 3. Okay, so I'll cut it to just about 3 and about 2, and I have to trim a little bit off because there was white on the edge. There we go. So far I've used 3 different background papers from the kit. Do the same thing. I'll use my tag corner punch. This one, Amazon, it's corner punch is what it's called, 3-way corner punch, and I'm going to use the middle-sized one just because I can. Okay, now I need, I didn't do that right. I need to trim it a little bit more because it's just a little bit too long. I thought that was 3 inches, but perhaps I'm wrong. Maybe I just didn't trim it enough. Just wanted a smidge shorter. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, and you know what? I think what I'll do is I'll put a piece of lace here, and then that'll be my lacy bit. And then I'll put lace on the edge of the piece that I tuck inside. I thought about putting lace on the front to make another belly band, but again, sometimes I make things way too thick, and so I want to be cognizant of that. And because I'm going to put a piece of lace here, rather than using another hole reinforcer as I did here, I am going to use a slot punch and I put a flat piece of lace, and that'll take away, now I have to figure out where I put my slot punch. Oh, here we go. That'll take some of the bulk away. And here we go. This is a slot punch or a badge holder punch. They're also available on Amazon. Pretty much everything I use is available on Amazon. But you, of course, don't have to use that. You can use any hole punch. And now I'll get a piece of lace, something, I've got this little itty bitty scrap bin of lace. So, oh, here, that's pretty. I'll pull this piece out. I love using lace scraps. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, that's pretty. I'll put this here, and then what I do to make it as flat as possible, because again, I do make things way too bulky, I sew it flat because then it adds almost no dimension. And I'll save that for my scrap bin. Okay, I'm going to sew this along the edge. I just sew the top edge of those pieces together. If I tie it, it creates a good bit of bulk. But if I just sew it or staple it, a whole lot less bulk, which is why I do that. Haven't found my sewing machine scissors yet, but they'll turn up at some point. I keep a pair of small scissors right next to my sewing machine that I only use for threads, and that way they stay fairly sharp. Okay, and then that's going to, this is a belly band, so all I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to glue it at the very top and at the very bottom. just like so. Oh good, my camera's still rolling. That's a good thing. And just like that. So now this is a belly band. Okay, so that is this piece. And we're going to flip it over and we're going to make the circle pocket. Circle pocket, I love making these things. And you know what? Can I do that with vellum? I don't see why not. Do I have any more of this? This is too small because I used this size circle. The size circle you use doesn't really matter. Really doesn't. And you actually kind of want this double-sided. So maybe I'll use the remaining bit of this. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll use the remaining bit of this for it. Because that's the only double-sided things I printed. All right, that made my decision easy. So I'm going to get, this is a Creative Memories circle cutter. There are lots and lots and lots of different kinds of circle cutters. This just happens to be what I have. And I want to use this size circle. You can use a little bit bigger circle. You can use a little bit smaller circle. This is just what I had on hand. So I'm going to use this in the probably not super smart. This should be on a flat surface to get me a clean cut. So this may not give me a clean cut since I'm doing it on top of things, but that worked. Okay. And I close this right away, otherwise I will use that sharp blade and poke myself. All right, so I've got this cool circle, right? And then the way you do it is you fold two pieces in. I guess I have to decide I want this in the background. I want this in the background. So you fold two pieces in. I guess it doesn't really matter. Now this is where I like to use my work surface because I want these two corners to be at about the same spot. Well here, I'll use this to show you what I mean, this little score pal. So when I'm folding this, I want these two corners to end at about the same spot. And I want these lines to be mostly straight. And so here, I don't care so much if these touch or not, because it's just, but I do care that they end at about, or start, whichever way you want to put it, at about the same spot. And I do care that they are mostly straight. They don't have to be perfect by any means, but I do want them mostly straight. All right, there you go, fold that down. Now, depending on how big your circle is here, you're going to fold it up because I want to make sure that this fits on my tag, right? I want to make sure it fits. Oh, that's kind of cute. And I want to make sure that that works. So I'm going to fold it up about that much to make sure that it fits. Okay. You can do yet less or more. All I did was take the bottom and fold it up. Then I'm going to open this up. You can do it a couple different ways. Because this is thick cardstock and not pattern paper, I am going to cut these sections off. But before I do that, I'll show you what I mean. You have a couple options. I make a snip just to the intersection. And again, here I make a snip, maybe I make a snip just to the intersection. Okay, so you've got these folded over and then you bring these flaps out and you bring it up just like that. And then you can fold these in, right, to make another tuck, which would be kind of fun. Or you cut them off. I really don't like that. It's just too, the pattern, you can't see it. So I'm not going to use it, but that's how you do it. You can fold it in like this. You can fold it around like this if you're wanting something a little thicker, or you can just cut these flaps off altogether. You get to choose. It works all three ways. But I didn't love that because the patterns, they competed way too much. So I am going to use something else and do something just a little bit different. I'm going to use this and I'm going to use a circle. Let's see if I can use the inside circle. That'll be really small. I have other circles. This comes with a couple different sizes. So let's try this one. Nope, that's not going to work. And let's try the little one. I can do the outside of the little one. Yep, that'll work. Okay, so I'm going to use this. Now I know it's only colored on one side. I totally get that. But I didn't like the way they played together, so I'm going to focus on using this anyway. Okay, let's see what we've got. Put 2 little pegs, they go in the channel that's here, and I spin it in a circle. Push down as I spin around, and hopefully the darn thing works. Okay, that's better. All right, now, you know what I can do? Don't see why I have to do it exactly that way. Maybe what I'll do is, I don't want that bottom piece to show. I don't want the bottom color to show. So maybe what I'll do is I will cut this. I will cut this. This is this circle is almost 4 inches, not quite 4 inches. So maybe at 2.5, 2.5, I'm going to cut it. And then, yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. I cut it at about 2.5. So I've got, I don't know, thirds maybe-ish. That's maybe a stretch, but about thirds. And I'm going to ink this edge. And I'm going to glue this down right here, but I'm going to make this back piece a tuck spot. So I'm going to glue right here in the bottom, and I'm going to glue it down just like that, so that this will be a tuck spot. Here, I've got just the inside as a tuck, but here I'm going to make this back piece a tuck. And let's see, I'm going to have to trim off the edges, which is totally fine. So about here, I can always tuck more glue in later if I need to, right? Okay. There we go, and I want it about equidistant, simply so that I'm only cutting off the same amount on both sides. Yeah, that's close. All right, so I'm going to glue that down. Now I could leave it just, you know what, and maybe I will. Maybe, I don't know. But I also can do this and use that other section that I cut off and ink that edge so that it stands out, and then line this up on the bottom. And then I have a tuck here and I have a tuck here. So that's what I'm going to do, because I still get the same amount of bulk and I still get the same amount of value, or real estate, tuck real estate. And I line these up so that I know that it's centered. Line them up-ish. Okay, like that. And then I'll just cut these 2 little edges off. I'm going to use my glue scissors for that. Where did I put my glue scissors? Well, heck. I usually put things, oh, here we go. I usually put things back so that I don't do exactly what I just did. And now I'm going to cut. I'm going to open this up and cut right to there. Cut this one first, move my lace bit. All right, I'll cut that bit off, and I'll do the same thing over here. I'll get that out of my way and cut that little bit off. Okay, I really should use an X-Acto knife here, and in fact I will. Because of where that angle is and getting my scissors down there, I'm just going to use a straight edge cutter. It'll be a lot easier. Okay, line these up and just cut that bit off. And that way I don't have to worry about cutting into that corner incorrectly. Okay, there's 2 layers to cut. There we go. All right, that's still not perfect, but I can come in and trim that. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay, and then that's still intact. I'll move the score pal, I'll move these. And it seems to me there's, yeah, at least over there. Okay, all right, now back, folded up this flap. So here, we're here, we're here. Here is this side of the tag. the flip tag, and here's the side. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to glue or ink these edges. I'm not going to glue the edges. I'm going to ink them. Okay, so that brings us to here. Now we have this last flip piece. And I don't have much of this left, but I really kind of want to use a little bit of this. So maybe what I'll do, here I've got a bit of lace. Maybe what I'll do is use, I don't need it double-sided. Yes, I do. I do need it double-sided, but that's a little. I don't have a lot. Well, that fits nicely. There's no reason on earth that can't do like this. Okay, so let's do, oh, but this is the way it goes. The birdies would be sideways. I wouldn't like the birdies sideways. Do I have any more vellum left? I just have a little bit of vellum left. But I like the vellum with that. And if I have a sideways birdie, I could cover my sideways birdie. Because I'm going to do the same thing here. I am going to, let's just try it. I'm going to fold this over so that I've got this pocket piece, right? That's this pocket piece. It's a little bit narrower because I use scrap, but that's okay. I'm going to try to use what I've got. And I know I have other pieces, but I want to keep the same family together. That birdie is going to show, but I can put an embellishment on that, or I can do it this way. No, I want it flipped. I want it like this. So that birdie is going to be upside down, but that's not a problem because I can put an embellishment on that to cover up that birdie. We have all those fussy cut pieces. I could just put a little label right there. Okay, now this, so that the white doesn't show. Why don't I? All right, now this piece has to go. Oh, I didn't even have to do that. Corey, you're a dork. Okay, so let's go with plan B. I'm going to move this over just a little bit because I need a hinge here. So let's create a hinge. And that, because that hinge is there, it's not going to do that overlap show. There we go. That's the ticket. Okay, I just picked up the piece that I'd glued down and moved it over. I don't use glue stick too terribly often, but there you go. Make sure it's lined up. Make sure this piece is down. This isn't going to show, it's going to be underneath, so it won't show when I've got this piece folded over. So I'll put that down just because it's a little bit stronger glue, more permanent. Then I will ink this edge. And that will be like that. And it will be, like this. Okay, yeah, like that. Perfect. Okay, scoreboard. You can score it or just fold it. I'm going to score it right here where I've got that edge. Okay, and that's going to be my hinge that allows me to create that flap. And good, it's still going. And it's already a little sticky, so that's a good thing. I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. Now, am I going to get sorry about this? No, because I can still sew this on afterwards. I can still sew the piece of lace on there after. That's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to open this back up and glue this hinged piece right down here. And I am definitely going to clamp that. It's a little sticky on the back because of where I put the glue the first time, but when I'm done, I'm going to fold. Is that lined up correctly? Yeah. When I'm done, that's going to be glued down to the back. So if it's a little sticky, it doesn't matter at all. I want it to stick eventually anyway. And make sure that goes down all the way. See, glad I checked. I want to make sure that's tucked up against that tight and that it's lined up correctly. All right, that's a little better because it's kind of bulky right now because I've got all those different layers of cardstock right there. And then when it's all said and done, I'm going to glue this down to the back section like that. It'll be glued down. But in the interim, I've got this section here, and I want to put a bit of lace on that so that it looks pretty. Because you've got this side and you've got this side, and this is that side. And here we go. Okay. Let's see, what other lace do I have? So I've used this one, and I've used this one, and I used that one. Let's see what else we've got. That's kind of pretty. That doesn't match though. And I've got my big old bin of lace right here. I've got lots and lots of lace, but this is the one that's right here, so I'm going to use it. Do I like that? It's going to be on this side? Sure I do. Okay. And will that go well on the edge? That's the next question. I don't know. Sometimes you have to use a little bit thicker lace, or sometimes you wrap it around the edge. Oh, that's pretty. I'll just wrap it around the edge. Yep, I like that. And this is just a bit of vintage lace. I like buying little sections like this because the way I use them, I don't cover the whole thing in lace. I just use little bits and pieces here and there, which is why I save scraps. I use scraps on the edges of journaling cards constantly. All right, I am going to put, well, on the cord, put a thin bead of glue there just to hold it in place while I sew it. And I'm going to lay that down. And I'll wrap it around. Do I like that? I want to make sure I like the profile that shows. And I do. So I'm going to sew that in place really quickly. This dries very quickly. I don't use it on my sewing machine until I know it's dry, but it tones down that white edge, and it just adds a little bit more lace, which is kind of our fabric for this one. And I'll just do a quick stitch all the way down to hold it in place. And done. Well, sort of done. Okay, now I'll trim the ends of that off, and I save those because that's a perfect little piece for the end of a journaling tag or journaling card. Okay, so there is that, and this should be dry by now. There's the flap, and then I need something here, but I think I decided rather than putting another tuck or pocket right here, I'm going to put some kind of a journaling piece, or maybe I'll do a top tuck or something like that because I want to hide that birdie. The other birdies don't really show and they don't bother me in the least. So my last step for this is just to glue the top and the bottom down. Top and bottom down. And just like that. Bob's your uncle. My friends in Australia explained to me how the Bob's your uncle became a Bob's your uncle. And it had to do with nepotism, and somebody got a position in Parliament, I believe is what it was, because their uncle was, Uncle Bob got them the position. It wasn't necessarily earned. So that's why Bob's your uncle. All right, I think that's it. So I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll ink it. And again, I'll address that when I decorate it. Maybe I'll, you know what I would do here is a Laura Bain fold down. And the way that works is there's a tab at top that holds it, and then you have a journaling spot that folds down, and then you fold it back up. And that would hide the sideways birdie nicely. So yeah, I think that's what I will do. Oh, and you can see it's not quite dry, but that's all right. I'm going to ink these edges. And I'll glue the final piece in place. That's the kind of the last step that we do for this. Okay. Take the edge off there as well. Okay, all right, all our pieces are in place and it looks kind of like this. So my very last step is I'm going to fold the bottom to the top, and I am going to glue on the left and the right on the back, on this pocket right here, I guess. I'm going to glue this section and this section so that they'll create that tuck spot. And so I'm going to need a fair bit of glue. It doesn't need to be excessive, but I want this to hold. So I'm going to glue those down. And again, you can remember this is sticky because I put it in the wrong spot, but it doesn't matter because it's going to going to be glued down anyway. All right, should work. And now I'm going to glue this down, and I'm going to clamp it at the top and the bottom to hold it in place while it dries. All right, my last couple steps before decorating, of course, is I want to round these corners just like I did here, simply because I feel like it gives a more envelope-y, gifty effect. Maybe that's a silly way to put it, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to use my corner rounder, and doesn't really matter what size. Maybe I'll use the medium-sized corners. Maybe I won't. Yeah, medium-sized corners sounds great. Use corner rounder, and this is the same idea. I think this is a We Are Memory Keepers, but it's another one. This one does rounded, and this one does tagged. All right, now ink those, and ink that. And ink on the inside edge as well. Now, my very last step, very last step that we're going to do here is, I'll take those off, this flap, and my last step is the Velcro. Okay, so before I put the Velcro on, you'll have more tags and bits with lace coming out the ends when you tuck your pockets full. So it's still fairly flat. We haven't tucked all the pieces in, the lace gifts and the tags and the such, but you've got a little bit of an overlap, so it folds nicely here. You can even roll it if you want. If you make this really fat, that's something I often do. You can see here there's this little gap. I will create, and here I'll even show you. I will create 2 more score lines. Right, so here is the main score line at 5, and so then I'll do an 1/8 of an inch next to it, and then an 1/8 of an inch next to that, and that creates kind of a roll. And when you've got bulk, a rolled closure is really nice. So I've scored it a couple more times, and you can see there it just rolls down and around so that it'll accommodate whatever bulk the tags and the gifts create. Okay, opens this way, and my last step there is to Velcro that. All right, so the final project. Pocket, 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 lift. Open my flap. I've got a side tuck pocket here. I've got a double-sided pocket here, plenty of place to decorate or put more pockets if I choose to. Flip this over. I've got a pocket right here. Then I've got a flip with a side tuck pocket. You can see that didn't glue tight. And that's why you put a little more glue on. Okay. And this is plain, but I'm going to make a Laura Beam fold down here. I have a pocket right here on the top. Actually, this would be more of a tuck than a pocket since it's not glued. And then an actual pocket right here. Flip it over, and there's a belly band for this. I've got a pocket for labels or something small, and I've got a tuck spot for postage stamps. I have a large pocket in back. Oh, that didn't dry yet. Let's see why that's a big one. You want to glue that down. A large pocket in back for a large tag, and again, that'll be another bit of lace. And that is it. I'll glue on the Velcro closure, give it a minute to dry, because again, that was a really bulky piece, so I want to let it dry sufficiently. And I think it goes, yeah, this one goes like this. Okay. Fold it down, fold it down. All right. And you can see I've got that little bit of a roll there. And where did I put it? Right here. When I do the Velcro dots, this is personal preference. Again, I will center it because that's not a strength. I'll mark my 2 because this is about a 4 1/8. And I put a glue dot where I want this to go. Not a glue dot, a dot of glue. And then these are sticky back Velcro, but I find that they're not, all by themselves without a little assistance, they are not really strong enough. So I put that down, and then I put a little bit of glue just in the middle of that because it'll spread. And I fold this closed, make sure the top and bottom line up, and then I let it sit for a minute or two. And then once it's dry, the Velcro will stay on top and bottom where it belongs. And then my last step is to put a piece of lace or ribbon. Here you can see I used lace or ribbon, silk or ribbon around for the final closure. Okay, I'm almost afraid to look and see how long this video is, but that is how you do it. And this would make a really fun gift, and it meets the criteria, and I hope you enjoyed it. I apologize for all the blunders I'm sure I've made, as it's been so long and I've forgotten how to do this. But I'm hoping very soon to be back and being able to create on a regular basis. So thank you very much for watching. Please, if you haven't already done so, go check out Jez's channels. Jez's channel for today, Nijeza Creates, and the other contributors, and get your kit through Rach and Bella Crafts, and you will be on your way to creating a fun Christmas project series of projects. Take care and happy creating.